We have disassembled this P226 down to the field strip level, and it's time for us to start the cleaning and lubrication. Let's talk about the products that we're going to be using. Mil-Comm Corporation produces an excellent line of products, and they have obtained licensing from the NRA to advertise underneath their name. That gives you a pretty good idea of how good the product is. This is the MC25. It is a gun cleaner and degreaser, and that's the product we will use first on the firearm in the process. I'll set that aside, and the next product is the TW25B. It's a light grease, and it has been used for years by many military agencies. This grease also comes in a very unique applicator. And if I show you this end, you can see the little dark circle. Do not clip the ends of this syringe off, but turn this to where it centers on the dark circle, and that's all you have to do to open it. It's very clean, it's not messy. This allows you to get into the very tight locations that you will need to apply that product. If you can't get in to apply the light grease, come in with the MC2500, which is an oil, and lubricate the springs and the places that you just can't get the grease to flow. If you have a firearm that is extremely dirty, and have a lot of brass and lead build up in the bore, the Mil-Comm Corporation produces a product called MC50. And this should be used for that situation. Let's get started. And the first thing we're going to do is bring in the slide. And we will start the process with the gun cleaner degreaser. We're going to spray this slide completely. Come in with our brush and scrub the firearm down real well. I'm going to take a cotton patch and I'm going to start wiping this down to get rid of all of the debris that I just loosened. Once you have completed the wipe down, the firearm should be extremely clean and ready for the next product that you will apply. Sometimes I'll bring in a larger cotton cloth for the job. Once you have dried the part that you're working on completely, it's time for the next application, and we'll lay this rag down here so we don't get that oil or cleaner that we sprayed down back on the slide. The product we're going to talk about now and show you how to apply it is the light gun grease. And when you think of grease, most of the time people think of something real heavy and sticky, and it only goes on some really delicate location. But this gun grease is like a polish, and we'll take a clean cotton patch, put some light gun grease on it, and this gun grease gets rubbed into the metal. It looks white, and you're going to rub it until the whiteness disappears. It puts a very protective coating on the firearm, and we have to make sure that we get all of the parts with this gun grease. It penetrates down into the metal, puts a protective coating on it, and the firearm will perform like you've never felt it perform once you've applied these products. Okay, we're going to get a clean applicator here, and we're going to come down to the breech face, and we're going to make sure that we do not get the grease down inside with the firing pin. So be very delicate when you do that. Come back with this applicator and clean off or rub in, let's say polish, this grease to a translucent color. It tells us that we have it in the area we're working on, and it's going to do its job. Come back to the underneath and work a little bit more. The better job you do, the better your firearm will be protected and perform for you. Okay, this slide is finished. Let's bring in the barrel, and we're going to spray it down with the cleaner real well. Now we're going to take a clean cotton patch and wipe this down. This barrel is pretty much clean from the outside, so here's how we're going to clean the interior of that. Put on a brush, and as a rule, never ever run a brush through your bore without having some type of a liquid on it. Hold the barrel with your one hand and push the brush all the way through. Do not stop in the middle of the bore with your stroke and pull it back to the rear, applying the same process. Now this bore is not very dirty, so we're going to take the brush off, put on the jag, and get a clean patch. And once we get the clean patch out here, we're going to put a little bore cleaner on it and run that through the bore. You can see how tight it is. And I mention that because I want to compare this process. Remove the jag and cleaning rod, and that pretty much does the cleaning process with the barrel and the bore. But we want to also make sure that the bore is dry. Push a dry cloth through. Very difficult to do. And that's a nice tight fit. That's what you want. We're going to bring in a clean cotton patch and put the light grease on the patch. And then we're going to run that through the bore. Okay. Notice that most of the grease left the patch. That means it's probably inside the bore, which is where it's supposed to be. Notice how easy that patch is going through the bore now. Remember the dry patch I ran, it was very difficult to push. Well, look at this. It just like glides through there. So there's a pretty good coating of grease on the inside of the barrel, and that's going to help your firearm. And we're going to apply some grease to the outside of this barrel as well. You can feel these pieces of metal just get really slick once you've applied and polished the TW25B into the metals. And make sure you get your ramp here real well underneath the lugs. Okay, now this barrel has been cleaned and polished. Next we're going to do the recoil spring, and we might as well do the guide rod along with it and spray them down with a cleaner. And always be very careful with your springs in this cleaning process. We do not want to stretch them. So it's a better process to turn them if you can than to pull them this way. If you're going to do this, rub them gently. We've got the recoil rod, spring rod here. So we've cleaned this guide rod and it's polished it up with some gun grease, and now we're going to rub a little gun grease on the spring. We're going to set these aside. Let's bring the frame in and start our cleaning and lubrication process. So we're going to spray this down with our cleaner, get all of the areas as well as we can. Come in with our brush and work on the rails. Try to get any loose debris or carbon buildup we might have. Now we're going to take a clean cotton patch and start rubbing that down, picking up the debris that might be left, carbon or anything. This gun's not very dirty. I'm going to bring in the cleaner cloth and continue to rub down the cleaning fluid. Get down in the rails real well and make sure we get all of this cleaning fluid off of the firearm before we add the grease. Use of these Q-tips really work well. You can see how it gets down into the nooks and crannies. Picks up all that stuff that you couldn't get with the cotton patch. Okay, now this frame has been cleaned and dried. It's time to apply the polish. So as we did with the other components of this firearm, we're going to apply the polish. We're going to rub down inside these rails and make sure we make them slick and protected. Now you notice that while I'm doing this, it's very difficult to get down inside of all this these working parts down in here with a patch, and also with any other type of applicator other than And this applicator with the grease works really well for getting in these tight spots, but you know, even though this works well with the grease, there's some locations that you just can't get with the grease. And let me rub this down a little bit. Got this wiped down pretty well, but you know, no matter how hard you work at getting the grease to go down into these little crevices, you can't get to it. And that's when you pick up the gun oil, the MC 2500, and apply just a little bit of oil, and you can see how it seeks out those places where it's very tight and you have metal against metal, and there's no way to really get the grease down into it. Now we'll let that set for a little bit and put some more gun grease on the rails. Let's put a little bit on top here because you can see where that rubs a little bit here. Okay, we've applied that. We're going to take our Q-tip and work it in a little bit more. I want to make sure those rails are really lubricated. Makes the firearm operate so much better. You will be amazed. Spread a little down inside the mag well here near the ramp area, and get a clean cotton patch and finish this process. Any firearm that you're going to work on, you can apply this same cleaning process to. Clean it well, lubricate it with the grease by polishing the metal. Okay, this frame is really looking good. We'll set that aside. That completes the cleaning and lubrication of this SIG P226. And just a note for you, on your other firearms, we recommend these products. I think you'll be very happy with them, and they'll do a great job for you.